Tonight, the U.S. hits a missile site on Greater Tunb, an island Iran occupies but the UAE claims, while Tehran quietly frees an American after nearly 2 years. If you're just joining us, here's the backdrop. Since the US-Israel war on Iran began in February, Tehran has used the Strait of Hormuz as a military pressure point and as economic leverage, disrupting a waterway central to global energy flows. A US-backed effort to settle traffic management rules faltered, and Washington has been striking Iranian maritime defenses and missile or drone capabilities while trying to reopen commercial shipping.
This is Iran War Daily. Strikes creeping north toward Tehran, a contested island in play, one dual national walking free. And we're going to ask what got traded for her. Sarah, start me on that island.
Here's John Gambrell at ABC News.
The United States intensified its strikes targeting Iran early Thursday, hitting targets further north as American forces also fired into a ship it accused of trying to break its naval blockade on the Islamic Republic. Iran retaliated with missile and drone fire targeting Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait before dawn.
So, the Hormuz escalation update. Per ABC News, U.S. forces pushed strikes farther north early Thursday, into areas around Tehran for the first time this round, and fired on a ship Washington says was trying to break the naval blockade.
So the blockade stopped being a threat and turned into actual shooting. A vessel disabled by U.S. forces. That's enforcement with live rounds now.
And Iran answered, again per ABC, missile and drone fire at U.S. facilities in Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait before dawn. The conflict is spilling well past Iran's own borders.
Iranian officials put the toll at more than 35 dead, over 300 wounded, their count uncorroborated. But strikes reaching the capital's air defense perimeter tells you the ceiling people kept asking about hasn't been hit. It's still climbing.
And the interim deal that priced this thing calm a week ago is, in ABC's framing, shredded. The battlefield's moved. The paper hasn't kept up. Here's the National.
An Iranian-occupied UAE island in the Arabian Gulf was hit by U.S. strikes on Wednesday during a 90-minute wave of attacks. The U.S. military's Central Command said Greater Tunb Island was home to Iranian missile launch sites. The island is one of 3, along with Lesser Tunb and Abu Musa, occupied by Iran since 1971.
New category of target here. The National reports the U.S. hit missile launch sites on Greater Tunb, an island Iran has occupied since 1971, but that the UAE claims as its own. That's different from the southern coastal sites we've been watching all week.
Right. This is disputed real estate. Abu Dhabi's been asking for Greater Tunb back for decades, and now the U.S. is putting ordnance on it. Somebody in the Emirati Foreign Ministry is doing very careful math tonight.
And per the National, it was a 90-minute wave, with the IRGC claiming retaliatory strikes on U.S. facilities in Bahrain, Jordan, and Kuwait. Claims, I'll stress, were keeping separate from confirmed damage.
The part that lands for me, the UN's shipping agency says Hormuz is now too dangerous for commercial traffic, and 2 ships already turned around. That's the number that shows up on an insurance desk in the morning.
Here's Al Jazeera.
The United States has launched another wave of attacks on Iran, striking what it said were military targets along the country's southern coast and near the Strait of Hormuz, while Tehran claimed fresh attacks on U.S. military facilities across the region, as a fragile ceasefire comes under growing strain.
90 minutes. CENTCOM timestamps it. Strikes done by 7:30 Washington time. Coastal defenses and cruise missile storage on Greater Tunb. That's Iranian-occupied UAE territory getting hit by American munitions.
And that's the category shift. All week, the targets were southern coastal sites, places like Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, and Jask. Greater Tunb is a contested island Abu Dhabi has claimed for decades. Different kind of map.
So where does Abu Dhabi land now? The U.S. just put ordnance on the exact real estate the Emiratis have been asking Tehran to hand back, and did it without, as far as we can tell, asking anyone in the Gulf first.
Keep the other half in view, though. The IRGC, per Al Jazeera, claims it hit U.S. military sites across the region in return. No independent corroboration in front of us. CENTCOM confirms what it fired. Tehran's counterclaim stays a claim.
Right. One side gives you a timestamp, the other gives you a press release. And nobody's shown me a crater.
Laura Tingle, writing in ABC News.
US-Iranian citizen Dena Karari has been freed after almost 2 years of detention in Iran. Her lawyer said she was held on bogus charges of collaboration with a hostile state and espionage. Ms. Karari is now outside Iran, and U.S. President Donald Trump has welcomed the gesture of goodwill from the regime.
One name out of Iran today doesn't fit the rest of the rundown. ABC News reports Dena Karari, a US-Iranian dual national held since December 2024, is out and already outside the country. Her lawyer, Jared Genser, calls the charges espionage, collaboration with a hostile state, bogus.
One out. After we just walked through strikes pushing north and a ship disabled off the coast. So the whole diplomatic signal from Tehran today is a single dual national on a plane.
And Trump welcomed it as a gesture of goodwill. His words, fine, but goodwill from whom and through which channel? Doha, Islamabad, Oman? Nobody's claiming it yet.
Goodwill that touches exactly 0 of the hard files. Nothing on the nuclear question, nothing on the proxies, and other detainees are still sitting in Evan. This is the kind of release that gets laundered into a headline win and covers nothing underneath it.
That's the asymmetry here. Every other item today points up the escalation ladder. Karari points the other way. Whether that's a crack in the door or a one-off gesture, we don't have the channel to say. BBC News writes,
The U.S. said it had launched a fresh wave of strikes against Iran on Wednesday as President Donald Trump warned Tehran it better behave. The U.S. military said Iranian military capabilities used to threaten vessels moving through the Strait of Hormuz had been targeted. Air defenses also sounded in the capital Tehran, according to state media.
So the target list gets a name now. Trump's threatening bridges and power plants if Tehran doesn't show up next week. That's civilian infrastructure, the electricity and the river crossings, not a missile site.
Careful, Rich. He threatened that. He didn't strike it. What the U.S. military actually confirmed today is hits on Iranian military capabilities used to threaten vessels through Hormuz, plus air defenses sounding over Tehran, per state media. And Iran's counterclaim is its own category. Tehran says it struck U.S. targets in Bahrain and Kuwait. I've got no independent corroboration of damage on that in front of me, so it stays a claim.
Bahrain and Kuwait. That's where U.S. bases sit. If even a fraction of that lands, the second-order bill runs straight through the Gulf. And Galibof's telling state media Tehran has no reason to honor the deal if it doesn't benefit. That's the negotiator calling the paper dead in daylight.
Which pairs badly with Trump's answer on a deadline. No deadline, just, they better behave. 5th straight day of hostilities, and the framing hasn't moved an inch.
If you've got feedback, a story idea, or a correction for Iran War Daily, send it our way at iranwardaily@lanternpodcast.com. We do read your notes, and they help sharpen the show. What we're watching next? The talks window next week, after Trump threatens strikes on bridges and power plants if Iran doesn't return to negotiations. Links to every story we covered today are in the show notes. So if one of them caught your ear, you can go straight to the source from there. That's Iran War Daily for today. This is a Lantern podcast.